Commanders family, we have got a genuinely warm and genuinely revealing sit-down interview to break down, as Brian Cobber Jr. caught up with new tight end Chig Okonkwo fresh off practice, and this conversation gave us real insight into how quickly this new addition has settled into the building, what it has been like building chemistry with Jayden Daniels, and exactly what kind of leadership presence he is already bringing to this locker room. Let us walk through every single thing he shared, because there is a lot here that should have every Commanders fan genuinely excited heading into the regular season. Start with the acclimation piece, because the specific language Okonkwo used to describe his transition into this organization was genuinely encouraging. He described the whole experience as easy and awesome, crediting the team environment for making what could have been a difficult adjustment into a genuinely smooth one. That kind of immediate comfort matters enormously for a new addition trying to build chemistry quickly with a young offense that still has significant developmental runway ahead of it. The specific comparison from franchise legend Santana Moss deserves real attention here, because when a Washington icon looks at your new tight end and says he does not even look like a traditional tight end, that he looks more like a big-bodied wide receiver in the mold of Pierre Garcon, that is exactly the kind of physical profile comparison that gets an entire fan base legitimately excited. Okonkwo addressed the reception he has received from both franchise legends and the broader fan base with genuine appreciation, joking about a slight bias given his own tight end background before emphasizing how welcoming everyone in the building and throughout the DMV community events has been toward him. What genuinely stood out in this conversation was Okonkwo's description of the actual fan experience specifically at this organization compared to wherever he came from previously. He was direct that this level of full camaraderie, fans showing up early and waiting at the gate before he even arrives at the facility around 6:30 in the morning, represents something genuinely different from his previous situation. That specific detail, fans already waiting at the gate that early in the morning, tells you everything about how starved and how genuinely engaged this fan base has become heading into this season, and Okonkwo clearly recognizes what an exciting environment he has stepped into. The David Blau relationship deserves specific attention because Okonkwo's description of how the new offensive coordinator is deploying him reveals exactly the kind of scheme flexibility that should excite fans regardless of position group. Rather than forcing every player into a rigid, predetermined system, Okonkwo specifically praised Blau for identifying individual talent and play style and building the scheme around what each specific player does best. That adaptive coaching philosophy is precisely the kind of approach that maximizes what a roster full of different skill sets can actually produce. And hearing a new addition specifically credit that flexibility this early in his tenure is a genuinely positive sign for how this offense is being constructed heading into the season. The Jayden Daniels chemistry conversation produced some of the most genuinely compelling insight of this entire interview. Okonkwo described the process of building that connection as straightforward specifically because of how easy Daniels is to work with and communicate with as a person, someone he characterized as genuinely chill and approachable. He explained his current developmental focus involves learning the specific nuances of how Daniels throws the football and how he processes and sees the game unfolding in real time, work that has been happening consistently throughout OTAs and now training camp. When asked what specifically makes Daniels special as a quarterback, Okonkwo's answer deserves to be highlighted directly because it speaks to something beyond pure physical talent. He pointed specifically to Daniels' poise, explaining his belief that a quarterback's mindset directly dictates the entire team's mindset on the field. If the quarterback is erratic under pressure, the rest of the offense tends to reflect that same instability. Daniels' ability to remain calm regardless of the situation, showing no visible pressure phases him in any circumstance, is exactly the kind of foundational quality that allows an offense to execute consistently regardless of what a defense is throwing at them. The joint practice experience against the Miami Dolphins, Washington's first opportunity to compete against outside competition ahead of their preseason Week 1 matchup provided a genuinely valuable evaluation opportunity that Okonkwo appreciated specifically because of how challenging Washington's own defense has been to face in practice all camp. He was direct in praising his own team's defensive scheme as genuinely tough and well-designed, which made facing a different defensive look during joint practice refreshing in terms of finally seeing his route concepts operate against unfamiliar coverage rather than the same defensive scheme he has been practicing against daily. He described the entire joint practice experience as a great competitive environment, emphasizing Dan Quinn's consistent preaching of competition as an organizational value, and noted the genuine novelty of watching the full offense and full defense operate together as complete units for the first time, supporting each other against an outside opponent rather than simply competing against each other in intra-squad drills. The leadership question produced a genuinely thoughtful response about how veteran presence actually translates into younger player development. Okonkwo was direct that leadership in this specific context is not primarily about verbal instruction, but about setting the tone through your own competitive effort. He explained his belief that younger players naturally follow the example set by veterans, which means simply going out and competing hard, playing fast, and demonstrating the correct standard through action is the most effective way to communicate expectations to a young and developing offensive room. The conversation closed on a genuinely fun note discussing Okonkwo's upcoming first appearance at Northwest Stadium wearing burgundy and gold, running out of that tunnel in front of this specific fan base for the first time. He clarified with a laugh that it would technically be his second game with the organization rather than his first, prompting some playful back and forth about which appearance actually counts, before expressing genuine excitement about what he described as a fan base that is legitimately hungry for a good football team. Based on everything he has already experienced through community events and his early time in the building, he expressed real anticipation for what that home crowd energy is going to feel like once the games actually begin to matter, and a genuine commitment to going out and giving this fan base exactly the kind of performance they deserve after everything they have shown him already. This is exactly the kind of interview that should give Commanders fans real confidence heading into the season, not because of any single specific statistic or projection, but because of what it reveals about the character and the competitive mindset of a player who is stepping directly into a genuinely important role within this offense. A tight end who prioritizes chemistry with his quarterback, who credits his coordinator's scheme flexibility, who leads through consistent effort rather than empty talk, and who genuinely appreciates the specific environment this fan base has created is exactly the kind of addition that tends to pay off in ways that go beyond what shows up in a box score. Drop your thoughts in the comments on what you are most excited to see from Chig Okonkwo once the regular season begins. Tell us how you think this tight end and Jaden Daniels connection develops over the course of the year, and let us know if you will be at Northwest Stadium to give him that first true home crowd welcome. Smash that like button, subscribe if you have not already, and we will see you all in the preseason. Hail to the Commanders!